Hi guys, this is Miss Pone, and today we're going to learn about permutations and combinations. Our goal today is to learn the difference between permutations and combinations and how to use our calculator in both situations. Now guys, be nice to the sub today. They have a pretty difficult job as illustrated here, so please be on your best behavior and do whatever he or she asks you to do. Our first vocabulary word today is a permutation. Now a permutation is an ordered arrangement of objects. Again, order matters. Now the number of different permutations of n distinct objects is n factorial. Now this exclamation mark right here is the factorial symbol. N factorial is defined here as n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 and so on and so forth. Now I think it's much easier to understand this with an example. Say 4 factorial. 4 factorial is defined as 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which we know is 24. So let's take a look at some examples. Example 1. How many different surveys are required to cover all possible question arrangements if there are 7 questions in a survey? Now, how many total questions are there? There are 7, so we're going to want to figure out what 7 factorial is. Example 2. 3 students, Alex, Bonnie, and Charles, line up in a single file line. How many different ways can they line up? There are 3 total people, therefore we are looking for 3 factorial. Now, these numbers are small enough that we can calculate them either using our calculator or by hand. But sometimes our numbers are too big to do that, and our calculator is where we're going to want to go to figure out those numbers. So let's use these examples to help us out. The first thing you're going to want to hit after you turn on your calculator is the math button. When you hit the math button, this screen comes up. This screen we use quite frequently when we convert to fractions, take square roots, things like that. But we're not using this screen. We're going to want to arrow over 3 times to the right. When we do that, the probability menu, or PRB, comes up. We're going to be using this a lot today, specifically choices 2, 3, and 4. 4 is the factorial symbol, which we're going to be using for these examples. Example 2, NPR, we're going to be using for permutations, and 3, NCR, for combinations, but we will learn about those later. So, how are we going to do this now that we know where the factorial button is? Using example 1, we're going to want our calculator to look like this, to say 7 factorial. And these are the keystrokes to help us. First thing we're going to do is we're going to type in 7. After that, we're going to hit math, arrow over 3 times to the right to the probability menu. 3 times down will take us to the exclamation mark, or the factorial symbol. Lastly, we're going to hit enter. After that, our screen should look like this. Hit enter or equals, and you should figure out that 7 factorial is 5040. Now, if you're having trouble with this, please ask a friend or ask me at another time. So now that we know that problem 1 is 5040, what's 3 factorial? See if you can get your calculator to tell you what 3 factorial is. If your calculator is telling you that 3 factorial is 6, good job. If not, try again, ask a friend, or see me for help in case you are struggling. But not all permutations are like this. So far, these 2 examples, we've used every object. But sometimes permutations don't use every object, and that's where this formula comes into play. This permutation formula still is used when we are ordering an arrangement of objects, but we use it when we aren't using all of our objects. Again, order is important, so make sure that if order is important in the example, that you're using permutation and not combination. Now, this is defined right here as NPR, or N permute R, and our calculator will do this for us. If we don't have a calculator, we're going to have to remember this. So we're going to want to make sure that every day in class we have our graphing calculator, because it's much easier to use the calculator as opposed to having to memorize this kind of scary formula here. But before we can use this formula, we need to figure out what n and r stand for. Now they're defined right here in our definition as n being the total number of objects and r is the size of the order we are finding. So now that we've defined the permutation formula, let's take a look at some examples. Example 1, you're required to read 5 books from a list of 8, and how many different orders can you do so? So the first thing you have to figure out is how many total and how many are you looking for. So in this particular situation, n, or our total, is 8, and r, or the number we're looking for, is 5. So we are looking for 8p5, or 8 permute 5. Example 2, 4 students in a club are interested in 2 positions, president and vice president. How many ways can the students be chosen from these 2 positions? Now we know that our total number of students is 5, so n is 5, and that there are 2 positions, president and vice president, therefore r is 2. So we are looking for 4p2, or 4 permute 2. So we saw how crazy this formula was. We had to do this by hand, but don't worry, I'll show you how to do this on your calculator. So using example 1, we want to figure out how to get our calculator to look like this. 8 NPR 5. How do we do that? Using these keystrokes. The first thing you do is you type in 8, then you go to math, arrow over 3 times to that probability menu, arrow down just once this time so that NPR is highlighted, and then hit enter. Once you've hit enter, you're going to want to type in the number 5, and your calculator screen should look just like mine. Hitting enter one more time, you figure out that 8p5, or 8 permute 5, should be 6,720. So now that we know that example number 1 is 6,720, see if you can figure out or get your calculator to tell you what 4 permute 2 is. If your calculator told you that 4 permute 2 is 12, you did it right. Again, if you're still struggling, get help from a friend or find me outside of class. But in life, not every single situation does order matter. Sometimes order does not matter, and that's where combinations come into play. A combination is a selection of r objects from a group of n things when order does not matter. Again, combination is for when order does not matter. Now you're going to see here some pretty similar notation here. NCR this time for combination. And you see another crazy formula here. Again, our calculator will help us with this. So if you have a graphing calculator in class every day, you're going to get to use this calculator shortcut instead of this crazy fraction. Like the permutation formula, n still stands for total number, and r is the size of the group we are finding. So, on to some examples. Example 1. How many different groups of 3 students can be selected from a class of 24? Just like before, the first thing we need to do is define our variables n and r, n being the total number of students, in this case 24, and r being the number that we're looking for, or groups, or a total of 3 in the group. Groups of 3. So we're looking for here 24, C3, or 24, choose 3. Example number 2, there are 3 job openings and 6 applicants. How many different ways could the positions be filled for these 6 applicants? So we know that there are a total of 6 applicants, and there are 3 job openings, or that's the number that we are looking for. In this case, we are looking for 6 C3, or 6 choose 3. Just like before, we're going to use example 1 to figure out how to get this done on our calculator. This is what we want our calculator to say, and this is how we're going to do it. Start by typing 24, again 2 followed by a 4. Hit math. Arrow over 3 times to the probability menu. Arrow down 2 times to where you see NCR, and then hit enter. After that, you're going to want to type in the 3, and your screen will now look just like mine. If you hit enter one more time, your calculator should tell you that 24 choose 3 is 2024. So now that we know that example 1, 24 choose 3 is 2024, what's example 2? 6 choose 3. Utilize your calculator, see if you can figure it out. If your calculator tells you that 6 choose 3 is 20, then you did it correctly. Great job. And that's it for today's examples, guys. You have the remainder of the class period to work on your homework. Remember that when I return, either at the end of class today or tomorrow, I'm going to check this in for your daily point. Do your best, work with each other, and be on your best behavior for the sub. Remember, N is the total in the group, R is the number that you want. Permutations, order matters, and combinations, order does not matter. And guys, that's it. Be good, and I will see you all tomorrow.